To be or not to be, that is the question. And it's a question we're going to answer today, specifically about anime, and more, even more specifically, about what anime will probably never exist. Specifically, we are going to be talking about a lot of manga that are, in my opinion, pretty good, but honestly, I don't see them getting an anime adaptation relatively soon. Now, please keep in mind, though, that just because I don't necessarily think that it will get an anime doesn't necessarily mean that it won't. One of the things that I am going to be talking about in this video has actually been confirmed that it will get an anime. The only reason that I said that it wouldn't is, well, I'll explain it in that portion of the video. But let's actually begin. Now, the first manga is Barrage, which is written by the same creator who created My Hero Academia, Kohi Horikoshi. Now, this is one of his earlier works, and it is an amazing story that is basically taking the idea of the Prince and the Pauper, but expanding on it to make it more space-like. The only problem with it is that it's way too short. This is one of the only 2 volumes there are. There's only, like I said, there's only 2. This is the first one, and then there's the second one. And that's it. It's just too short. And that's going to be a big portion of why a lot of these manga are not going to get animated, is because of the fact that they are just too short, and will likely never get a longer release, which sucks, but what you gonna do? And they're also just they're too long to become an OVA, which, while it sucks, it makes sense. Now, Barrage, I think, actually stands a bit of a better chance, because now that Horikoshi is getting close to the end of My Hero Academia, he may start thinking of going back to some of his older series, specifically Barrage, and he has another one that I just haven't read it yet, but those 2 he may start thinking, okay, let's go back to these, maybe reboot them, maybe continue where they left off. Barrage ends at a point that feels like there should be more, and yet they just don't. So I think that they really could have done something with it if it had just succeeded at the time. And I think that if Kohi Horikoshi specifically realizes that that these are actually really good and that people like them, maybe he'll actually get some more attention, especially if he, well, publicizes that he's making other manga. Just a theory for right now, but it's definitely a good one. Now, the next series is actually a manga that does have an anime adaptation, but, as we'll see with a few other series in this, it's more than likely not going to get a second season, well, I guess for this one, a 3rd season, and that is Blue Exorcist. Now, obviously, many of you are probably well aware of Blue Exorcist. It's one of the greatest anime of all time, and yet it only has 2 seasons? Now, obviously there are other anime that only have 2 seasons, but they have a higher chance of getting an anime adaptation, in my mind, than Blue Exorcist. While Blue Exorcist is still going on and will probably continue to go on for many more years, the actual anime kind of flopped, because of the fact that they decided to change a lot of things from the anime to the manga, or from the manga to the anime. It caused a lot of weirdness to happen, and when they tried to correct it in the 2nd season, it felt off, and the 2nd season just was nowhere near as popular as the 1st season was. Let's just be honest, if you've watched Blue Exorcist, you probably love the anime, and if you've read the manga, you probably love the manga as well, but unfortunately, it's just probably never going to get another season because of the fact that, well, just didn't do well for its 2nd season. And that's actually a bit of a running situation, as we'll be talking about when we eventually get to one of our later series. We'll talk about it in a bit. But the next manga that we're going to be talking about is a Minecraft clone, so obviously that kind of makes sense why it's not going to get an anime adaptation, and it is frickin' Cube Arts. This is the Minecraft Isekai, as I have coined it. Now, I have not read this really at all. A lot of what I've read has been the backs, and I'm getting around to reading it. It's just not time to. I just haven't gotten around to it. But I mean, do you honestly think that when you have this on your back, Mind Your Craft, you're gonna get an anime adaptation? Let's just be honest, no. This is too much of a blatant copy, or at least inspired by Minecraft, that it just feels like it's an extremely dangerous situation to be in. Sure, they may be able to pull off making an anime adaptation of it, but the other problem is that people are starting to get a bit annoyed by isekai. Sure, people talk about them a lot, and some people watch them a lot, but a lot of people have started to basically say that the isekai genre, as it is just kind of garbage, with all things considered. And yeah, I can understand why. Personally, I think that this is, from what I've read of this is absolutely hilarious, and I can't wait to actually read it and finish it. But for right now, it's kind of garbage. It's kind of garbage, and it's a great garbage, but it's still garbage, and should. I think it's gonna get some laughs, but it's not gonna be enough to get an anime. Let alone the fact that it will only get one season. And let's just be honest, if you're gonna do a anime adaptation, you're not gonna do something that will only get you one season, unless you happen to get bankrolled by a really powerful company. Cough, cough. Square. Cough, cough. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later, but that's beside the point. Right now, Cube Arts just doesn't feel like it's gonna work. And while it could possibly work, Minecraft also isn't that popular. Like, it's starting to gain a little bit of popularity in Japan, but compared to other places of the world, it's just not as much. And basically, maybe it's been getting some more recently, but honestly, I haven't heard of anything, so I don't know. It's a tough gamble, and also if the Minecraft team finds out about it, hi. This may have been canceled because of Minecraft. I don't know. We'll see, but I don't know. Like I said, it remains to be seen exactly what they're gonna do. Next up, though, also is something that has been animated already, and that is not Dr. Stone, Drifting Dragons. Now, Drifting Dragons has only had one season so far, but the problem is it's 3D. Yup. Oh boy, this is gonna be fun. Now, here's the problem. Many people have a big hard time when it comes to anime that are 3D. In fact, as of right now, as far as I'm aware, there's only been like one series that was fully 3D that has gotten a second season, and that was Beastars. Nothing else has really been able to do it. Not to mention, this was not popular. Like, no one was talking about this when it came out on Netflix. Beastars? Absolutely. But Drifting Dragons was not talked about, let alone the fact that it also happens to be a series that has a lot to do with cooking. Yeah, it could have done extremely well, but the problem was that it came out on Netflix, which meant it went to Netflix jail. But two, it's 3D, and at the time, especially, 3D was not popular, and I just can't see this getting another season. And that's really disappointing, because it's really an awesome series, as you'll see in a future video, because I'm going to be doing another review of it very soon, of the latest volume, which, yeah, just came out like a few weeks ago. So, should it get an anime adaptation? Absolutely. Will it get one? Honestly, I can't say for certain yet. And honestly, if it could get an anime adaptation that takes the art style of the original manga and just goes with it, I think it will be a huge boost to the series, especially if it doesn't go to Netflix, because there's Netflix jail. And all of us know about it, we all hate it, so we don't know. We'll see. Honestly, that's just how it is at this point. And of course, manga are falling. Next up, though, is actually Dr. Stone, which is Dr. Stone Reboot Byakuya. Now, this is a 1-volume manga. Yeah, that's not getting an anime adaptation. If anything, it's getting an OVA. So, maybe it will get that, but honestly, I doubt it. Here's the thing. This is a spin-off. Spin-offs have a hard time getting an anime adaptation. But 2, it is short. It is short as heck. Like I said, it only has 1 volume, and it's never getting another one because of the fact that if it does, it's only going to be continuing its story in the main series, which as of right now, I kind of doubt it's going to get that series. I'm not caught up as of yet with the actual manga. I'm caught up with it here in America with its volumes, but not with its chapters. So, yeah, it remains to be seen if it's actually going to get better. But I'm seeing these chapters, and I want it to get animated. It's such a good story, and yet, yeah, it won't work. It quite simply can't work. But maybe it doesn't have to. Maybe instead it'll be an OVA. Perhaps in a future season or so, when they feel like it's time to actually prepare people for the future of the series, they'll do an OVA in, the original, for the series. And have it be Dr. Stone Reboot Byakuya. But have it also be a bit more complicated than that. It will have it be a much better much better series, and will get us prepared for what is to come in the manga and the anime. But I think that they have to at least show that it is actually canon, which, as of right now, it's not canon. So, until it's actually made, this is canon, it's just not going to happen. We'll have to wait and see exactly what they're going to do. But, should it become canon, it will definitely get something. But as of right now, it is not canon, so it can't. It's probably not going to get an anime adaptation. Because honestly, if it did get an anime adaptation, it would just screw with the minds of everyone. Now, next up is a series written by one of my favorite mangaka, and it is Anduelia. This is written by the same person who created Witch Hat Adelaire, and it's honestly amazing and absolutely deserves to get an anime adaptation, but the problem is it's one-shots. Basically, each chapter only doesn't really progress the plot. There's a plot, but it's basically a lot like a lot of American cartoons, where each episode is episodic. Sure, some things go next to the next, but it's just unlikely. Let's just be honest here. It's unlikely it's gonna get an anime adaptation. And also, I think that Witch Hat Adelaire is more likely. That's just a thing. And it also only has 3 volumes, so it's, yeah, we've already talked about how short series probably don't get anime. But we'll move on. Next up, remember when I mentioned Square and all that? So this is actually one of the manga that is, of the manga that I'm talking about in this series, or in this video, this is actually one that I think is a bit more likely to get animated. Square is a big company, and due to the pretty decent success of The World Ends With You as anime, I think that this could be a thing eventually. The biggest problem, though, is that it's an isekai. But I can't say for certain. Here's the thing. This is a series that would be a good test to basically see, okay, are the fans actually ready for a Final Fantasy anime? They absolutely loved The World Ends With You. are they actually should we actually go forward with creating anime for the two big series, which means Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy is probably Lost Stranger is probably the least likely to get an anime adaptation, just because of the fact that it is a new story. As such, if it fails, there's just nothing they can do about it. Should the Kingdom Hearts manga fail, which I'll just skip ahead to that right now, since we're talking about it, I don't think that either of these are going to get an anime adaptation, just because of the fact that, well, if they do succeed, what's next? Are they going to be able to continue moving forward? The Kingdom Hearts manga is absolutely hilarious, absolutely worth reading, but the problem with it is that it's already an adaptation of the main story, which this is a better representation of what an anime for Kingdom Hearts would actually look like. But the fact is that really only if these other series do well can this do well. First off, The World Ends With You had to succeed in order for Kingdom Hearts to get an anime adaptation. If it didn't, there's no chance, which luckily it did succeed. But they're probably going to be doing another test, that of Final Fantasy Lost Stranger, if they're going to be doing another test. And if that passes its test, which it might not even get its test, then Kingdom Hearts can get its anime adaptation. But for now, there's just no telling where it's going to go. Now, let's actually get back on track and talk about Heterogenia linguistico. An introduction to interspecies linguistics. No, it's not getting an adaptation anytime soon. Let's just be honest here. It is a fun series, it is a fun story to read, but when you're dealing with a lot of linguistical things, it is a pain in the butt to actually deal with this stuff when it gets animated. One of the reasons why they didn't actually do well with Promised Neverland is because of the fact that they refused to make the language for Promised Neverland. Oh my gosh. So many times do people speak in demonic in that, and because of that, the manga succeeded, but the anime didn't. And as such, this also will probably not do very well. Well, it could. It's tricky. It is very tricky, to say the least. And yeah. Now, it's absolutely a fun series. Getting to see all of the characters as they go through, and it's also one of those series that happens to be one of my favorites. But and also kind of a adoptive father story. We'll get to that later, but that's not gonna happen. There's so much to this, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see exactly. But like I said, there's just this feeling in my brain that's just saying, yeah, no, this is never getting animated, because they'd have to figure out, okay, how are we going to deal with the multiple languages situation? Now, sure, it's barking, or that type of thing, or sloshing because of slimes. Lots of different things, but at the same time, it's like, ooh, I don't know. And if they are going to do it, then they have to do subtitles, because the fact is that the main character is not speaking in English. He is speaking, or whatever, or Japanese, or whatever. He is speaking most of the time in these other languages. He is speaking in slime. He is speaking in werewolf. He is speaking in lizard man. And yet, and there's just so many issues with it, and it's just a pain. And also, it's short. I've mentioned short multiple times. This video is going to be way longer than I was expecting. Anyways, moving on to the next series. 100% give this an anime adaptation, or I will haunt you to your grave. Oh my gosh. This needs an anime adaptation, and it needs to be longer. if the creator of Juana and the Dragon Newts is watching this video, which I hope you are, then give us more. This is one of the greatest series that I've ever read, and it needs more. It needs to have a better conclusion. It needs to continue to go until just the end of time, because it is that good. We need to see more from Ned. We need to see more from Juana. We need to see more of this, and we need more Spanish confusion. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, but I've mentioned that I love this series multiple times, and it's absolutely amazing. And it does kind of have a bit of a similar situation as Heterogenia linguistico, as because of the fact that Juana only speaks in Spanish, yeah, they're gonna have some issues there. Do they want to actually get a Spanish-speaking person to come to Japan to record the subbed, and also the dubbed, and continue to have the issues that will let's just be honest, there's going to be a lot of issues. Manga don't like, or anime don't like doing multiple languages. Let's just be honest about why the heck Devil's a Part-Timer hasn't had a second season until really recently, and it's taking a bit of time before they're actually going to be releasing it. Yeah, other languages, really hard for them to do. But 100% I want this to be animated, and I want the creator to continue to write. Kiyohisa Tanaka needs to write more, and needs to continue this series, because it is one of the most heartwarming series that I've ever read, and it needs an anime adaptation so that more people can understand just how amazing these characters are and see just everything. It may only get one season, and I am fine with that, but it needs to have something because it is so worth it, and the amazingness of the watercolor covers. Seriously, how has this not gotten an anime adaptation? I don't know. Moving on, though. I have to move a little bit quicker because I'm quickly realizing that this may be a 40-minute video. I'm kidding, it should not be that long. But the next thing that we're going to be talking about is My Hero Academia School Briefs. I'm kidding, it's not just that. We're going to be talking about My Hero Academia, specifically talking about the spin-offs. Now, School Briefs is one of them, light novel, but also there is Vigilantes and Smash and Team Up Missions. Now, some of these have a bit higher of a chance to get an anime adaptation, specifically Vigilantes and Team Up Missions, because those are technically canon. Those are actually canon, and if they don't get an anime adaptation, then there's going to be some problems at some point, and people are going to be very confused about what the heck is going on in certain points. Oh, you know I am. Anyways, School Briefs is also canon, and Smash is not, but the fact remains that those two should be canon, or the School Briefs should be canon, and should be continued to talk about. But unfortunately, it's just taking a lot of time for these creators to actually get their butts off the ground and make these actually animated. School Briefs is amazing. The reason I specifically bring up School Briefs and Smash, though, with not being likely to get anime adaptations, Smash is trash, and School Briefs is, well, a bit episodic. They jump around to different locations or time periods for a lot of the series, with the only real connection being that of the first volume, which, yeah, that is actually, like, but this should be a movie. Like, I don't understand why they didn't make, like, one of the first few movies be School Briefs Volume 1, because, yeah, it totally deserves to be a movie, and it is formatted to be a movie. It is formatted to be a book. It is 100% a book. And I don't understand why, the remaining ones are not. They are a bit episodic, with some connections to different points, but they're amazing, and they add so much more information into the series that not having them feels like a crime, because they add so much more detail and depth into these characters. Normal My Hero, let's talk about the latest School Briefs, Volume 4, which technically is no longer the most recent one because this video is probably coming out Tuesday, I think? So, 5 is actually out now. I haven't read it yet, but probably will have read it. Well, I'll be reading it shortly after you guys see this. So, that should get an anime adaptation, 100%. But, that had so much in-depth discussion of what everyone was doing and showed off a lot of the really awesome stuff that the kids did for Eri and what the other kids did in general. They actually showed the performance in School Briefs, like the full performance of the whole play that that Class B did. That was all in School Briefs, and yet it's just that one short scene in the anime and the manga. But oh well, this just goes so much more in depth, and it deserves to be appreciated, but it's just never gonna be because of the fact that it's only a light novel and it's a spin-off. So oh well. Next up though is Promised Neverland. Season 2 doesn't exist. That's why it needs a second anime. Basically, here's what I want them to do. I want them to restart from where Season 1 left off. The changes that they did in Season 1 were reasonable. They kind of helped to make the story flow a little bit better. They need to do that again. They need to do what they did for Season 1 again. Redo the series. And don't cut out the best arc of the series. If you do, you are going to get a lot of fans pissed off. Now, obviously, this is never happening because everyone disowns Season 2. So, it's never getting an anime adaptation because people were idiots. So, if you are going to redo this, you need to redo it. You need to redo it as a completely to the book accurate. No changes, like, at all between from where you left off. Season 1, that's fine. 100%, we all agreed that one was absolutely fine. It could stay that way. No one would argue. But you need to make the demon language actually speakable, and you need to work with the author to make it as accurate to the manga as you possibly can. Because if you skip one of the most important and fan favorite arcs of a series, you are going to be getting a lot of pissed off fans. And also they ruined a lot of it, seriously. I think that there are some things that some fans would be like, yeah, we could probably get a better ending. Which I have heard a lot of fans actually want a better ending to the manga, but to me, it was fine. I kind of wish that Emma got her full life story and actually learned everything about herself and became and regained her memories, or to some degree regained her memories. She didn't have to regain all of them, but regain some of them would have been really nice. Or retelling her the story. I don't know. There's a lot of things with it. But the point is, she needs a better ending. But I don't care at this point. Right now, I just want there to be a better anime adaptation, and it's never happening. So let's just be honest here. Alright, next up is Reincarnated as a Sword. This has already got an anime adaptation. Oh my gosh. So, here's the thing. When I was actually planning to make this video, one of the first ones that I wanted to talk about, and the reason that I specifically was going to make this video, was because of Reincarnated as a Sword. Now, I've done a Show It Some Love, because it was an awesome series. It is an awesome series. But the problem with it is that it has some nudity, which is a bit of an issue. Now, obviously, they can censor it in the anime, but it's not censored in the manga. So, kind of a bit iffy of a situation there. And it's obviously, it's not much in the manga, enough that it doesn't even change the rating from T to M or whatever. But the fact remains that this is an amazing series. It needs to get another it needs the adaptation. The point is mute at this point, but the point is that Reincarnated as a Sword, I didn't think it was going to get an anime adaptation. One, because it's very similar to Reincarnated as a Slime, but at the same time, it's not. There's a lot to it, and I'm really excited to actually see this. But I also know that a lot of fans are just like, it could do without. And I don't know. There's some things, and I'm sure that it'll be good. They'll probably censor it a bit, which everyone kind of expects with anime adaptations. Let's be honest here. But who knows? There's a few things that we could say about this, but it's going to take a little bit of time to say for certain what exactly they're going to be doing. But, yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I love this series. It's getting an anime adaptation. So the point is mute, but at the same time, it was kind of, there were some reasons why I thought that it wouldn't. Anyways, Survamp. Great transition, I know. But Survamp is actually another series that has an anime adaptation, but it's more than likely never getting a second season. Mostly because, what was the reason again? Oh, because it didn't follow the manga. That's a running gag here. There's actually a lot of manga or anime that don't follow the manga. This is one of them that's a big one. But the thing is, the anime is hilarious. And they kind of end the story, like, very well-ish. Let's just put something clear. The manga is longer, but they kind of did a bit of a Promised Neverland situation there, where they decided to cut out a lot of the story in basically terms to make sure that the story got done quickly, and it suffers for it. But I really want to see this get a full-fledged anime that actually copies everything, because the story is hilarious. The manga is hilarious, and it needs to at least get something to conclude it and to actually make it better. And that's the thing that I really want to focus on. And yeah. Now luckily the remaining things are just things that will probably never get animated. Specifically, Lost Stars. Yeah, this is Star Wars. Oh, we're talking about Star Wars just after Star Wars gets an anime. Yeah, so I know that Visions is out, but at this point, I don't think that Lost Stars is getting an anime adaptation. First off, it's a book, originally, and by a English speaker, so it was originally an English production. So yeah, it's not getting an anime adaptation. Probably. The thing is, it is such a good story, and I think that it deserves to at least get a movie at some point. But the problem with it is, one, it's short, but it's too long for a movie. It's too long for a movie, but too short for an actual season. Well, maybe a season, but at the same time, it's like, do you want to go that direction? And also, it has that bit of Romeo and Juliet, and let's just be honest. Right now, they're kind of avoiding a lot of the older and basically retelling of stories. Like, they have been doing some, but the fact is that a lot of the adaptations that have been happening recently have been a lot more, this is a original idea, sort of, not really, but I don't know. That's the basic reason why I don't think it's going to get an anime adaptation. If anything, it might get a live-action adaptation, or nothing at all, because it's Star Wars, and we all know that Star Wars books don't get anime adaptations, or adaptations at all. Let's just be clear here. Books don't get anything for Star Wars yet. Like, why? I don't understand why they think that nothing for Star Wars should get adapted. Like, the fudge? I don't know. Let's actually move on to more spin-offs. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. There are currently 2 spin-offs. Well, actually, there's a few. So actually, the slime stuff is actually more likely to get an anime adaptation than other things. But the fact remains that things are a bit confusing right now. Now, I'm going to start with Trading in Tempest. Now, the reason that I specifically bring this up is because of the fact that Slime Diaries, which is done, actually, like, I've looked it up, and apparently it is not getting any more manga. But, and it got an anime adaptation. The thing was, though, that it takes place a while in the past. Like, a full season in the past. Now, this takes place during the first half of the second season. Which is a rough part, to say the least. And that's just the simple fact. It takes place during that time. So if it's going to get an anime adaptation, probably going to be next season is my guess. But I'm not really 100% certain. The fact is that this is kind of in a weird place at this point that I don't even know if it's likely to get an anime adaptation because it's hilarious and it's funny and it has some really awesome characters and cute characters. But at the same time, it just has that bit of a weird edge that I'm not really certain about. I can't shake the feeling that it's probably not getting an anime adaptation because unlike Slime Diaries, Rimuru is hardly involved in this. Like, he is there. He is involved. But he is nowhere near as involved as he was in Slime Diaries. Nor is he anywhere near as involved as he is in the other spinoff, which is Ways the Monster Nation. Sorry. Whew, that's a long title. But that's also that's about to happen, I believe, after what has just happened in the anime. So I don't know if that's ever going to get an anime adaptation, but yeah. I don't know, there's a lot to it, and it's kind of a tricky situation, to say the least. I will say that I do love this series, and I think that it should get an anime adaptation. It's just probably going to be a bit longer, because Volume 4 is coming out soon, I believe, but I'm not 100% certain on exact details of when. And then, off the top of my head. But until Volume 4 comes out, I'm not saying anything for certain yet, but I don't think it's getting an anime adaptation. So, now we're getting into the last two. The last 2 series that I don't think are getting anime adaptations, kind of. The first one is The Witch's Printing Press. It's kind of bad. That's a simple fact. Like, it's okay. Don't get me wrong. It's a decent story, but the problem inherently lies with the fact that it feels a bit copyish of Ascendance of a Bookworm, even though it's not. And it's just another isekai is the problem. Like, I've only read 1 volume, and it's just kind of boring. Like, seriously think about that. How many adaptations are there of series that are specifically about improving an area, or that happen in a fantasy world, but let's not talk about the fantasy aspect, let's talk about business? Oh, you guys, you're saying something? Oh, Spice and Wolf. And, how well did that do? Yes, I know a lot of fans are really big fans of it, but really you're just big fans of the certain character's body. Let's just be honest here. That is the reason that people like Spice and Wolf. It is not the fucking business of it. And sure, a few of these other series have been doing pretty well, let's be honest. But the difference between this And things like Slime Reincarnation, or that recent series that I haven't watched yet, I forget what it's called, but The Realist Hero, or whatever his name is. The problem with those, compared to Witch's Printing Office or Spice and Wolf, is the fact that these two, Spice and Wolf and Witch's Printing Press, they are solely focused on the aspect of the building blocks, and they're focused on these business aspects, and as such it's just boring. They don't have really big, massive, magical fights. There's a reason that one of my fans said that they were disappointed with the fact that the latest season of My Hero didn't, well, meet expectations, because of the fact that it didn't have, well, a big fight until very recently. And at the time, that was their biggest complaint. Unlike the previous seasons, it didn't have a fight. So it wasn't as popular. So that's probably going to be the same thing that's going to happen this season. If this happens. I don't know. Maybe there's more in the future volumes, but it feels like Ascendance of a Bookworm, but not as fun. And the other thing about the reason that I think Ascendance does well is because even though it's about business, and it's not taking place in and the other thing is, it's not taking place in a magical location. Sure, there's magical beasts, but it's nowhere at this point that most people have seen. It's not to the magical stuff, and it is just now starting to get into it, and it's going to expand on it as it continues. And that is the thing that fans love about this series. And this doesn't. This is mostly just focused on, I want to go home. That's it. And it's boring. Let's just be honest here. Okay, that took too long. Let's talk about the final series, which I do 100% think that this will be getting an anime adaptation eventually. But I do have to bring up the problems with why it might not. Witch Hat Adelaire is one of the greatest series of all time. But the reason that it will not be getting an anime adaptation is because of this. The simple fact that it has won an award. That is rare, and I mean rare, for a manga to get an award. And not only that, it has figures. Let me just say that one more time. A manga, one of the greatest manga of all time, has figures. 2 figures of the main character exist. And yet, for some reason, it has not gotten an anime adaptation yet. It has an award that is on the freaking cover of both the 7th and the 8th volume. It is there. 100%. And because of that, I do not think it's going to get an anime adaptation, because it's just too popular. One of the biggest reasons that manga get adaptations is because it is not popular enough. Devil's a Part-Timer. Why did it get an anime adaptation? It wasn't popular enough. All of these other series that I think could get anime adaptations, why did they not get anime adaptations? Because they're not popular enough. Or they became popular after their anime adaptation existed, and then they failed. Because the anime does not copy the books. But with Witch Hat Adelaire, it's just too popular. It absolutely should get an anime adaptation, and the creator wants there to be an anime adaptation, but the fact remains that there's not really a huge push for it to be getting an anime adaptation, except by its fans. Which, let's also be honest, not very many people talk about this series. Like, I am one of the most vocal people about Witch Hat Adelaire that I've seen. Even other people that have talked about Witch Hat Adelaire, who have done artwork for this series, or fan art for this series, they are nowhere near as vocal as I am. Like, I have looked at some of the people who, their videos promoted my videos, or had them in the little corner, whatever. Beside the point. They aren't vocal, like, nearly as much as I am. And not to mention big anime YouTubers. Do they know about it? The Anime Man, who has recently been doing a ton of manga stuff, and has been talking like crazy about a lot of manga. I've looked through a lot of his videos, never once has he talked about Witch Hat Adelaire at all. And that would have been one of the big things, like, Anime Man watches Witch Hat Adelaire, or something like that. But he doesn't. And, you know, you want to know the biggest YouTuber that I've seen who has mentioned Witch Hat Adelaire? Yeah, it's frickin' ProZD. ProZD, who is not even an anime YouTuber. He is a Viner who came over to YouTube and now does funny board game reviews. He doesn't even talk about anime, and yet he is the biggest one who even has the manga in his library, as far as I'm aware. Sure, maybe Mother's Basement has it. Maybe. Maybe Noxtaku has it. Maybe Animac or any of these other huge YouTubers who have anime, who talk about anime, they have it, but no one's as vocal at all. And as such, the demand for it isn't there. And that is the big problem. People are reading this and falling in love with it, but they're not talking about it. They're not saying, hey, all of you guys, go and read this series. Compare that to the recent stuff that's been going on with Hunter's Guild Red Hood, one of the greatest manga that has recently come out. Is it getting an anime adaptation? 100% I believe it will. But the biggest reason for that is because every single person who has been reading it has been telling their fans, hey, go and read this. This is amazing. You need to read this as it is coming out. Because it is only a little bit away from getting its actual light novel, or its actual book in Japan, and yet no one is talking about it. Everyone is talking about it because they want this thing to succeed, which Adelaire, on the other hand, no one is talking about it. And I think that is going to be the biggest detriment to this series, and why it's not getting an anime adaptation, at least not for a while. Sure, it will more than likely get an anime adaptation. It's extremely popular. The creator has even said that she wants there to be an anime adaptation. But fans aren't demanding it enough. And I think that that's the biggest aspect. I think that we need to start putting a new hashtag. And I'm going to be the first one to do it. In this video, I have put a little hashtag at the top of the description called "We Want Witch Hat Adelaire." Well, actually, let's change this. We want Witch Hat Adelaire anime, which will actually be shortened down to WHA, because let's just be honest, everyone, if it's going to be that thing that people are going to be looking at, and they're like, what the fudge is that? What is WHA? And with that, it should get some attention. So, we want WHA anime. And start going crazy. Post it on Twitter, post it on Instagram, post it on Facebook, for crying out loud. And we will get this thing animated, if it is the last thing we do. Because we want this anime. And I'm hoping that this video will get a ton of views because of this, even though this is a long video, and I'm pretty sure that some of you guys have been watching this at 2x speed. Let's just be honest, I probably will. Anyways, yeah, seriously. post that link, post that hashtag around, and let's see how it does. Maybe it will get some people to notice. And seriously, tag Shirahama in it. She will probably be like, oh, we want Witch Hat Adelaire anime. Okay, let's actually start looking into doing this. Especially considering the fact that it's just recently past the point of, this is probably a good point where we can now transition into an actual anime adaptation. I don't know. We'll see exactly how things turn out. But for right now, we'll just have to wait and see. And hopefully you guys will be here alongside us as we examine each of these and see, maybe one of these will get animated, or maybe a lot of them will. We'll have to wait and see. But anyways, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please make sure to leave a like, leave your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. Of course, if you guys do have a theory, make sure to say theory review somewhere in your comment. And of course, please subscribe and ring that notification bell if you haven't yet. It really helps us out a ton, if more than you may think. And of course, if you guys do want to support the channel even more, then definitely head down to the description and check out all of our links down there, including our social medias, our other channels, and ways you can support us financially, including the merch store, the book, and of course our Patreon, which a big thank you to our current patron, Sheeny and Joseph. And of course, if you guys haven't yet, make sure to check out the songs down in the Spotify. But anyways, guys, I've been Electro Ninja, and I will see you guys in the next video. But on!